Hey Govinda. What is the famous mantra that young children in the West repeat after ripping through all of their presents, big stack of presents? Two things they say. One is they're a variation of the same theme. Is that all? Or anything more? And all the parents, what is it? Anyway, I don't want to get too heavy. Yes, Shanti. It becomes a festival of disappointments. You know that suicides increase on Christmas? And for many people, it's one of the most, they have all kinds of therapy courses because it's so stressful. All the relatives, all the strained relationship. I was at a Christmas event, and the two sisters, 55 years old, and the other was 60, have not spoken to each other for 20 years. And they were sitting at the table together. And one would say, can you tell Janice to pass the salt? And the other one would say, well, tell Janice it's right next to her, get it herself. I'm saying 25 years. So it's season 2 be jolly? I don't know about that. All right, thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. It's more like a season of folly than a season of jolly. Huh? It's what you make it. That's true. That's the actual right answer. So today we're going to do the verse, and then we're going to try to say a little something about Jesus and Christmas and the Sermon on the Mount. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Chamunti Ravanatari Jamunati Ravanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunati Ravanatari Tiravanata Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Om, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, oh, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Gerardo Marava, Kunda Bihari, Jaya Rado Madhava, Kunda Bihari, Rado Jaya Rada Madhava, Kunda Bihari, Rada Madhava, Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Puri Bhajakacharya Sitata Sheesh with His Divine Grace Abhay Children Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Guru Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Nam Char Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Shri Goho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jagannathpuri Dham Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Ganga Maya Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Bhakti Dev Ki Samveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Sri Sri Radha Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki Gopremanandi. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the Divine Lotus Sita, Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Swadamo Pagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalaunasa Dashamesha Parano Konadodata Narana Namaskritcham Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat The Bhagavatam was as brilliant as the sun, as had risen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness at the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer respects to the personality of Godhead Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of living Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are on the 6th canto, the 3rd chapter, text 25. Prayena Veda Tad Idam Na Mahajano Yam Devya Vimohita Matir Bata Mayayalam Trayam Jadi Krita Matir Madhu Pushpitayam Vaitanike Mahati Karmani Yujamana Prayena Veda Tadidam Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Batamayayalam Trayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpitayam Vaitanike Mahatika Maniyujamana Prayena Veda Tadidam Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Batamayayalam Chayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpitayam Vaitanike Mahatika Maniyujamana Prayena Veda Tadidam Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Batamayayalam Chayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpitayam Vaitanike Mahatika Maniyujamana
Prayena Veda Tadidam Namahajanoyam
Prayena Veda Tanidam Namahajanoyam
Devya Vimohita Matir Batamalayalam
Deva Vimohita Matir Batamayayalam
Chayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpitayam
Chayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpatayam
Vaitanike Mahatikarmani Yujamanaha
Vaitanike Mahati Karmani Yujamana Prayena Veda Tadidam Namahajanoyam Devya Vimohita Matir Batamayayalam Chayam Jadi Kritamatir Madhupushpatayam Vaitanike mahati karmane yujamana. Prayena vedidam atanadirajaniyam.
Devya vimohita matirvatamayalam. Prayam janita matirvadupushpatayam. Vaitanike mahati karmani yujamana.
Vaishnavis. I don't put you on the spot. Prayena veda tamidamna mahajanoyam. Deva vimohita matir bhatirayalayalam. Trayam jadi kritamatir madhupushpatayam. Vaitenike mahati karmana yujamana. Prayena veda timitam nadihojayayam. Devya vimohita matir bhatirmayayalam. Trayam jati kritamatir madhupushpatayam. Vaitanikin matikarmani yujamanam. Prayena. Almost always. Veda, no. Tat, that. Idam, this. Na, not. Mahajana, great personalities besides Swayambhu, Sambhu, and the other 10. Those who are not those 10 Mahajans. Okay. I am this. Devya, by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vimohatat mati, whose intelligence is bewildered. Bata maya, indeed. Mayaya, the illusory energy. Alam, great. Trayam, in the 3 Vedas. Jadi Kritmati, whose intelligence has been dulled. Madhupushpatayam, in the flowery Vedic language, describing the results of ritualistic performances. Vaitanike, in the performance mentioned in the Vedas. Mahati, great. Karmani, fruitive activities. Yujamana, being engaged. Translation. Because they are bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yajnavalkya and Jaimini and the other compilers of religious scriptures cannot know the secret, confidential religious system of the 12 Mahajans. They cannot understand the transcendental value of performing devotional service or chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Because their minds are attracted to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, especially in the Yajurveda, Samveda, and Rigveda, their intelligence has become dull. Thus, they are busy collecting the ingredients for ritualistic ceremonies that yield only temporary benefits, such as elevation to Swargaloka for material happiness. They are not attracted to the Sankirtan movement. Instead, they are interested in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Now, I just wanted to give a little preface. Prabhupada describes his purports as his ecstasies. Emotional ecstasies, devotional and emotional ecstasies. And sometimes, if you look, you don't see the word Sankirtan Jaga in the word for word. You do not see, I mean, you see it's the purport. You don't see the Hare Krishna mantra also mentioned. And Hari Sari Prabhu told me that there was a big professor, I don't know what university, some so-called, big whatever, thought he was big. And he said there's no doubt the Bhaktivedanta purports. There's no doubt these books, they're beautiful, they're full of scholarship, there's profound understanding, they're beautifully printed, illustrated, they're just first class. The only thing is that sometimes Bhaktivedanta stresses only bhakti. He says that. And Hari Sari said when they read that letter to Prabhupada, Prabhupada was getting his mashas, he slammed his hand on the mat. And he said, I have written these books in such a way they cannot squeeze out any other meaning. Because Prabhupada knows the actual conclusion. Vedanta Vedakrit eva chaham, that the conclusions of the Vedas, is to know Krishna. So anyway, we'll get into that in a second. But you can just see it coming through here, especially at the end of this Ajamil section. Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother, who spent time, Prabhupada, they stated when Prabhupada had a house and a factory for his pharmaceutical business, making chemist shop, what do they call that, medicines and stuff like that. And they stayed in the upstairs. Prabhupada, above the factory, there was some upstairs apartments. And Prabhupada had them stay, and Prabhupada's house was either right next door or near or whatever. I don't know the exact distance, but close. And, I think we're in Allahabad. So, but the point is that they had closest. So Prabhupada said actually they had a brahmachari who led the kirtan. Sridhar Maharaj gave the pravachan, and Prabhupada was the closer. Prabhupada was the one who got them to donate, because he invited them. They were his business friends, Prabhupada's contacts, and he would say, "Now, come on, I know you can give, So that they were a team. Prabhupada said they were a great team. So Sridhar Maharaj knew Prabhupada very well. They were intimate friends, and Sridhar Maharaj said to Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who told me personally, and he's narrated in other places, that Sridhar Maharaj said, why, they asked Prabhupada, why did you come to America? And one time Prabhupada said, well, some of my godbrothers went to England and they failed. One of my godbrothers went to Scandinavia, he failed. Another godbrother went to Sweden and failed. Another one went to Germany and failed. Prabhupada said, I thought if I was going to fail, at least let me fail in a new place. That was Prabhupada, It was Joe. Prabhupada had his transcendental strategy about the thing. But Sridhar Maharaj, meditating on it, said he could understand why the others failed and why Prabhupada was successful. And he said two things. He said Prabhupada had unflinching faith, confidence in the order of a spiritual master. He had complete faith in the order of a spiritual master, the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in every town and village. And he had complete faith in the holy name. And you can see it coming, and now we're wrapping up the Jamil story and how he's been delivered by the holy name, the most sinful, the whole tug of war over his soul between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. And Prabhupada's ecstasy is coming out, the power of the holy name, it's coming out in these purports. So I wanted to give a little preface, and we'll read the Prabhupada's purport. Since one may easily achieve the highest success by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one may ask, why are so many Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and why people are attracted to them? This verse answers the question. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarvar ahameva vedyo, that the real purpose of studying the Vedas is to approach the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Unfortunately, let me ask you this. The Vedic literature, it's considered a tree, and there's the ripened fruit of that tree. So there's so many, there's Itihasyas, there's the Puranas, there's the four Vedas. What do they, before we get to what I'm holding here in my hand, what is the culmination of the Vedas? What section. What is it? Huh? Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta Sutra is considered the philosophical conclusion. This is the apex of understanding. Atato Brahma Jigyasya Janmadasa Yataha. It's in sutra form, and it's the culmination of all the fruit of the Vedas. And, interestingly enough, the first verse of Vedanta Sutra is the same as what we consider the proper commentary. What is the proper commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which is the fruit of all the Vedic literatures? What is that book? Books? It's Srimad Bhagavatam. It's Srimad Bhagavatam. And just to nail it, Vyasadeva, just to make it clear what Vedanta Sutra begins with, same verse is the way the Srimad Bhagavatam confirms. So Vyasadeva is underscoring, he's underlying that, we know the story. Narada Muni, he was dissatisfied what to do. Narada Muni said, you haven't purely and directly glorified Krishna. So Prabhupada's saying that why are they attracted to so many other things? So, what is he? The real purpose of studying Vedas is to approach the lotus feet of Krishna. Unfortunately, unintelligent people, bewildered by the grandeur of the Vedic Jagas, want to see gorgeous sacrifices performed. They want mantras chanted and huge amounts of money spent for such ceremonies. Sometimes we have to observe the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies to please such unintelligent men. Recently, when we established a large Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, we were obliged to have Vedic ceremonies enacted by Brahmins, because the inhabitants of Vrindavan, especially the Smarta Brahmins, would not accept Europeans and Americans as bona fide Brahmins. Thus, we had to engage Brahmins to perform costly jagas. And in spite of those jagas, the members of society performed Sankirtan loudly with Madanga. And I considered the Sankirtan more important than the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. And those who were there will remember that and I'm not disrespectful, it was auspicious. They had from the Radharaman temple, and they had some South Indian Brahmins there, and they were all chanting, and the devotees were having our Hare Krishna bust out kirtan. And the head of the Brahmins was, too much noise, too loud, too loud. And Prabhupada was smiling sweetly on the Vyasa-san, and he was going, can you see my hand? He was going, he literally was going louder, 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 So the potency of the holy name as is being glorified here. What is, if you actually know a science, it seems like a simple equation, E equals mc squared. I mean, it's a very simple, energy equals mass and squared. There it is. It's a very simple equation. And yet it unlocks the most powerful force in the universe, the atomic energy. It's a simple formula. So someone who knows the essence of the thing can explain it simply. So here we have the essence of the whole thing. We'll get into it, but taking shelter of the holy name and calling out in love for Krishna. That's the essence of the thing. We have in Krishna book, there's a Yajnik vein of the Brahmins. Balaram was sent. Krishna said, you send him, they're more likely to listen to you than me. No, we're too busy, we're doing our, In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was a small child, in Srivas Anga, they would have their kirtans, and they would be calling out for Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a small, how old? What do we know from Chaitanya Charitamrita? What is he? 3, 4, 5 years old, he would show up, middle of the night. They say, what are you doing here? I said, well, you're calling me, Okay, where was I? Both ceremonies and the Sankirtan were going on simultaneously. The ceremonies were meant for persons interested in Vedic rituals for elevation to heavenly planets. Jadi krita matir madhu pushpatayam, as it says in the verse. The flowery ceremonies. Whereas the Sankirtan was meant for pure devotees interested in pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We would simply have performed Sankirtan, but then the inhabitants of Vrindavan would not have taken the installation ceremony seriously. As explained here, the Vedic performance are meant, every Vedic mantra, whenever you begin chanting Vedic mantra, what does it begin with? Om, which designates Krishna. It's always there. It's all, the whole point is at the beginning, it's in the middle, it's the end. If people are bewildered, let's do the famous example. Prabhu, would you, it's a visual, you can watch him. Would you please touch your nose? Oh, no, 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 no. Yeah, exactly, you know. And this, I shall probably give this example. You know, if it's complicated, then they think, oh, it must be, you know. Prabhupada tells the story that, how did it work? The rich lady was sick, and her servant, her maid was sick. So the doctor came and checked both of them. And they said, oh, the lady, the rich lady, her fever was 102, and the maid had a fever of 104. And the rich lady said, no, my fever must be higher. I have to have a higher fever. Then when they prescribed the medicine, her medicine was, I don't know what, let's say 400 rupees, and the servant's was 1,000 rupees. No, my medicine has to cost more. So if it's complicated, then they think, oh, this must be bona fide. I remember my brother, an English professor, who gave it all up to become a fireman. It's a whole story. So I had Prabhupada's Gita. I was just coming to Krishna consciousness. I had Prabhupada's Gita on my desk. And he said, oh, you're reading that? Well, what? No, I'm using it as a bookmark. You know what? Of course I'm reading it, you know. He said, oh, I find it too simple. I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, it lays everything out so clearly. There's no room to speculate. I thought, isn't that sort of the point? You know, if you light a path, then you can go clearly, which you don't wander this way and that into who knows what cul-de-sac. But no, we want to be able to speculate. So, the famous guy, Chinmayananda, I'm looking at the time, Swami Chinmayananda, says surrender unto Krishna, right? So he says surrender to Krishna means surrender unto Hari. Now Hari means one who takes away. Who takes away? Thieves. When are thieves active? At night. At night, you can't see anything. When you can't see anything, it's unknown. So when it says surrender unto Krishna, surrender unto Hari, it means surrender unto the unknown. What? I started off here. It's very clear. Mom, Krishna said, how many times does he have to say it? Mom, to me. And all of a sudden, this rascal has by increments taken me all the way over here. What? So Prabhupada's making that point here in his ecstasy. Okay, we'll finish the purport. As explained here, the Vedic performances that we read are for those whose intelligence are dulled. The thing is that if you want to enjoy, this is something we should understand. What does it say about those who in the Brihat Narada Purana? It's also in the is it the 12th canto? The 10th canto? The 12th canto of the Bhagavatam. Well, I almost said it. What is the symptom of those who take up the Sankirtan movement, the chanting of the holy name? What is the qualification? On one hand, there's no qualification. On the other hand, there's a qualification. Sumedasa, which means other than Maharaj. Sumedasa means auspicious, clear, clean intelligence. We should if I have a knife and I keep banging it, bang, how well does that knife cut? You know, what is the thing? And I remember thinking about intoxication. You know, what is the root of the word intoxication? Toxic. What does toxic mean? Poison. I remember thinking, well, hang on a minute. You know, how's that going to work out? So the point is that because of there's so many descriptions about heaven. When I get to heaven, gonna see them pearly gates, you know, streets of live gold. They got the whole thing. When I get to heaven, gonna see them pearly gates. When I get to heaven, gonna eat them chops and steaks. They got all their plans, right? And I don't want to pick on anybody, lest I get what is it called, fatwa against me. But where do they want to go? Why are they attracted to heaven? If I'm following in the Muslim tradition and I don't understand the thing, If I understand it, that's another thing. But I don't. What is it other than Maharaj? Because he spent time in India. What's the big impetus? Is it 72? I thought it was 7. 72? Jeez. I had one wife. That was enough. 72, man. Talk about asking for trouble. But and when you go up to the Mormon, we went up to the Mormon when it first opened. We were in-house. Most people aren't listening on Christmas, so I'm going to let loose. We went up to it was me and I forget who. I think it was Jagadish, actually. We went up to because they had an open house. And you go through it's a whole story, I'll tell some other time. But you go through, and finally you come to the apex of their tabernacle, that big tabernacle. It's called the heaven room. You know what's in the heaven room? A giant bed. Because you get to be a Prajapati. If you're a perfect Mormon, you get to have your own universe and you can fill it up. They say God is, how does it go? We are what God once was. God is what will become. Of course, you have to ask who was the first who started the chain. That they don't, Adipurusha, that the question they don't ask. But the point is that I'm a Prajapati and I get to fill up my own universe. Fantastic. That's the goal of the thing. I live forever and I fill up my own universe with my, I don't know how many they've got. Or 72 virgins, or I'm going to see the pearly gates, or I'm going to see the streets aligned with gold. But description of actually what are you going to do there? I remember thinking, I don't even like harp music. What am I going to do there? Floating around on a cloud, wings, harp. I said, geez, man, doesn't sound too exciting. I'm not really inspired to go. Huh? No, it's harp music. It's harp all the way up. They got the 9 circles. It's harp music all the way up. It'll wear, like music. It'll wear on you after a while, if you ask me. But I'm sure it's celestial and sublime and all that stuff. But what do you actually do? Okay, you're in a prayerful mood. You got your wings folded. You're offering prayers. Okay, I mean that's But no, just what does God look like? What am I doing? No description. But it's what they're going to get. So their intelligence is dulled. They're juxtaposing what they're looking for here, there. So that's what so they can't understand the whole thing. They just don't get it. Okay. We'll finish in a minute. Especially in the age of Kali, Sankirtan alone is sufficient. If the members of our temple in different parts of the world simply continue Sankirtan before the deity, especially before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they will remain perfect. That's an important point. Remain perfect. You know how to sustain that platform. There is no need for any other performances. Nevertheless, to keep oneself clean in habit and mind, deity worship and other regular principles are required. Srila Jiva Goswami says that although Sankirtan, the holy name chanting, is sufficient for the perfection of life, because the next question may be, well then why are we worshiping the deities? And there's so many rules and regulations. Why are we doing that? What are you guys up to? Got something going on over there? Oh, you're looking at the purport. Okay, sorry about that. Jiva Goswami says, although Sankirtan is sufficient for the perfection of life, the archana or worship of the deities in the temple must continue in order that the devotees may stay clean and pure. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore recommended that one following both processes simultaneously. I said it wrong. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore recommended that one follow both processes simultaneously. We strictly follow this principle of performing deity worship and Sankirtan along parallel lines. This we should continue. Does anyone know the Gaudiya Math, not logo is not really the right word, insignia, what would you call it? Logo's okay? What do you call it? All right. What was on that logo? Designed, there was some other yantras and things in there, but what was the main point? 2 things, just mentioned here. Radha Krishna deities, and a big Madanga. Those are on the symbol of the Gaudiya Math. So just like touch your nose, or just, my fever has to be more. We try to complicate everything. Everybody's got everybody's looking for a shortcut. Well, I'll go to Vrindavan, and I'll live on juju beads, and, I'll go to Radhakund, I'll meet some, Mahabhagavat who's going to tell me my Siddha Swarup, and, whatever. Everybody's looking for a shortcut. But what is the most difficult thing for humans, especially in Kali Yuga? What is the if we assume that our difficulty is pride, who are you to tell me what to do? Prabhupada tells a story. There's a tree and there's a branch. Here's the trunk, okay, and here's the branch. And a guy is sitting here. It's a visual. He's sitting here and he's sawing. Okay, you got the picture, right? Here's the tree. Here's the branch. His friend says, hey. No, that's not going to work out. You're going to fall and break your head. Oh, well, who are you? Do you go to Woodcutter's U? I mean, what are you doing? Run along, And then Prabhupada said the guy keeps sawing. He falls, bangs his head. And the next day, rather than admitting it, that he was just an idiot, didn't take good advice, he says, oh, you must be a great astrologer. You can see the future. He's got a big bandage on his head, So just as a setup, what is such a difficult thing in the age of Kali? Just to follow. Don't mess it up. They have a landing, if you come in at night on an airplane and they have those lights that light up the runway. I was coming back from Mahabharata and Ladali's, and there's a Hilton hotel, and they've fixed all the lights so it spells out joy on the, it's a big 12-story building, and it spells out joy. I said, there's no joy in that place. But anyway, it's spelling out joy, right? So suppose I think, well, those, they're just two straight lines. And people are coming in, they're traveling a long distance. Maybe they're lonely. It's a new city. I'm going to go out there and spell out welcome. I'm going to move all the lights around, and I'm going to spell welcome to San Diego. Is that going to help? Is that a good idea? Hey, it has a meaning. It's deeper. It's more, No, just leave them alone, because then they'll know how to land. So just to follow. We have, Prabhupada mentions the Mahajans, Mahajana Yeno Gatasa Panta, that the different religious Shastra, there's all different types of understandings. Why are there different understandings in Shastra? Sometimes. Who was here? Where would I hear that? From Radhika, who's our guy, our scholar? Radhika Raman? Yeah, Radhika Raman. He was making the point that in the Rig Veda, there's also the story of Vritrasura. Vritrasura. There's also the story about him. And in that story, in that narration, because it's a historical event, it's not just a folklore, but in that narration, Indra is the hero. Now, how do we hear that same pastime? How do we hear it in the Bhagavatam? Who's the hero? Although one time, Vritrasura, he's conquered, and he's slain, and Indra saves the universe. Kijai. That's Rig Veda. But what do we find in the Bhagavatam? And who was giving class the other day? And Prabhupada said in the purport, somebody was giving class. Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. And Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, the sixth canto, two things are stressed. The power of the holy name above all other things. The holy name is the essence of all things, is the fruit of all things, it's the be-all and end-all. And what do we learn from the Vritrasura? That whatever your bodily designation, you can be. That's no impediment in devotional service. And whoever you are, whatever body you've got, wherever you start, if you surrender to Krishna, you can become a pure devotee and go back to Godhead and obtain the perfection of all the Vedas. So that's how the Bhagavatam tells the story. The Vritrasura, he's the hero. So if I go to a pharmacy, why are there so many medicines? Even for the same disease, let's put a sharper point on it. Even for the same disease, there's different medicines. Why? The other ones are all cheater. If I just take the pink pills, everything's fine. What's the reason? Because there's different severity. Who said severity? That's a good idea. I hadn't thought of severity. But it's also the, depending on the patient. Like a child, they've got child's dose of aspirin. There's what an adult takes. There's, suppose I think, well, hey, I got a headache. It says take 2. I'm taking 6. It'll knock it right out. What'll happen? Good luck with that. So, the point is, the simple point that Prabhupada's making in this purport, and I'm trying to make in my own way, roundabout way, is that to simply follow. It's a perfect package. It says, we worship the deities, you become purified. The senses become controlled. The mind becomes controlled. You become regulated. You got to get up on time. You got to go to bed on time. You got to be clean. You got to worship the deity. Jesus says, because I was going to try to say something about Jesus. Okay, we got a few minutes. Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Right? Now, you could graph that as an equation. Pure of heart equals what? You will see God. If you're pure of heart, you'll see God. You know what a converse is? Basic algebra? If you add this same factor entered into either side of the equation still balances. If I add a 2 on this side, I have to add a 2 on this. It'll still balance. It's called a conversion. If I add a negative is a conversion. So if I'm not pure, I'm adding the same factor, I have to add it to both sides of the equation. You with me? Basic algebra. So if I say, blessed are the pure of heart equals, if I add you're not pure of heart equals, I won't see God. It doesn't take rocket science to figure it out. So I was sitting, and I've mentioned it before, I'm going to say it again, and we'll wrap up here because you got to go, I got to go. The measure of today is Christmas Day. Of course, even that they argue over. What is the day of Jesus? I mean, you've got, sometimes it's all the way into January. It all depends whether you're Orthodox or whatever you are, But be that as it may, it's being observed today. And one of the cornerstones, one of the not really the Mahavakya. The Mahavakya is the Lord's Prayer. That's their essence of Christianity. But the Sermon on the Mount is, blessed are the pure of heart, they shall see God. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called the children of God. It's called the Beatitudes, and it's really quite moving, actually. And he gets into it. He says some very heavy things. But the theme I was looking at is similar to this. What is the measure? Is the measure that I can do all the rituals, I can know all the Vedas, but what is the real measure? The measure is my character. Am I actually becoming a devotee of Krishna? And you can measure it. Mukunda Maharaj said that Prabhupada wrote out, the 64 qualities of a devotee. And Prabhupada said you should put it by the tilak mirror so that you read it every day. And I'm speaking to myself, don't worry. Definitely. One of my favorite events, one of my heroes, I have some heroes, and one of my heroes is Naranjana Swami. So Naranjana Maharaj, the GBC for Ukraine and so many things, and he's, whatever. So we were sitting together in Mayapur, and a devotee came up. There's all types. My father one time spent a day, this walk-in, my father bought this walk-in many, many years ago. And out of fun, he came to see it be installed. He wanted to see and he was watching first we got to come and Dharma Seder's there, we crush the lime and then, we do the different mantras, and then the devotees had 15 different ways they were going to put it in play. It was a whole thing, So, so I said to my father, I said, what do you think? He said, well, you sure got the variety pack. All the different types of devotees and the way they go with, it's just one. He actually became very fond of the devotees. So, now what was I going to say? The variety pack. So there's all types of devotees, and all different stages. There's Madhyama, there's Kanista, and there's different, in each of those there's different modes of nature. So, we got the variety pack. So this one devotee, he came up and he criticized every single aspect of the Hare Krishna movement. He went off on the lazy brahmacharis, they're just playing in the hand of God. And those householders, they're just attached. The men are all arrogant, the women are all just taking care of kids. Prabhupada said, don't worry about the mothers. One sannyasi in LA, it's on a morning walk. So the women aren't at Mangal Arati, then where are all the mothers? Prabhupada said, you don't worry, that Krishna takes care of the mothers. And then Prabhupada actually said, we're off the track, but Prabhupada actually said to the guy, you're just envious. Prabhupada said, because you're so ugly, no one will marry you. Prabhupada actually said, Pancha Davida. They had a nice rust. They were joking. So anyway, where were we going with that? So this devotee, just, the lazy brahmacharis, the attached householders, the arrogant sannyasis, the inept GBC, it just went off on, these pujaris, they know so many pujas, and they eat all the maha. I don't know, he went off on everybody. And I was thinking, the only element of the Hare Krishna movement this person is not offended is the cows. And then he said, and that is Kapa Nubrandavan. I thought this guy's a perfect storm. He's a perfect trifecta. He has managed to offend every possible element of the Hare Krishna movement. And me, I'm not the most patient of people. I was even more passionate in those days. I was about to wring the guy's neck. But I thought I was embarrassed, that I'm with Niranjana Swami. I really can't show my lower nature here. So I was controlling myself to the best of my abilities. Some other time, I'll tell you, when Radhanath Maharaj controlled me when I was the GBC, in the chair of the GBC, and about to blow my stack, and Radhanath Maharaj saved me. I'll tell you that story some other time. So anyway, I was controlling myself to the best of my ability, counting to 10, And he finished. The guy finally ran out of steam. And I wanted to see, how is Niranjana Swami going to answer this? And Niranjana Swami, he said, I can see that you're expert at finding fault. He said, I think if you study your own heart, you will find sufficient subject matter. Now think about that for a minute. I mean, it's very sharp. It's sweet, it's gentle, but it is right to the point, And the guy just walked away. Got it, So I'm just saying that, if you it's Christmas, Jesus' appearance day, at least they're honoring it as this day. And what is he actually talking about? He's not talking about, the pearly gates. He's not talking about, how, what is it? Is it in Revelations? That is one spooky book. In Revelations, you're sitting at the right hand of God. It's not sufficient that you're successful. You've got to drive by your Mercedes and see the guy who taunted you in high school, and he's out there selling pencils on the curb, and you got to splash mud on him. Then what is it? One who finds happiness in others. Schadenfreude? What is it? Schadenfreude. You find happiness in others. You got to have the full package. You got to succeed, and they got to fail. That's material formula for happiness. In the Revelations, you're sitting at the right hand of God. You're in heaven. But what can you also hear? The wailing and the gnashing and teeth of people condemned forever in hell. Oh, that's all right. Should have listened, How is it possible? We have the Vaishnavas going out every day. They can't. Prabhupada said there's one thing that the Vaishnavas cannot tolerate. One sound. Devotees, more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige. This is tolerant like a tree. What is the one thing that the Vaishnavas cannot tolerate? Prabhupada says the sound of the conditioned souls being crushed by the material nature. That they can't tolerate. So we can think about, what is in this purport, in this last section, what is the fruit of the thing? And we shouldn't think, okay, well, I've been saved, I've got the holy name, everything's cool. We have to look at our character. What is the measure of our character? Okay, we can end there. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.